You let your eyes close for a moment, and in the quiet space between one breath and the next, the world you know begins to fade. The hum of electricity, the distant murmur of traffic, the faint ticking of a clock, all of it dissolves, as if someone has pulled a soft woolen blanket over the modern day. When you open your mind's eye again, you are standing in a place far older than you have ever known. It is morning in a small village in 14th century England, and the day is only just beginning to stir. The air here is cooler than you expect, crisp with a dampness that clings to your skin and clothes. You notice it immediately, a freshness untinted by machines or fumes, a scent of soil and moss and wood smoke, like the world has been rinsed clean overnight. Ahead of you, the village lies in a gentle hollow of land. The cottages are low and irregular, built from wattle and daub. Their walls a patchwork of pale earth and straw. The roofs are thatched thickly, the straw bound tight by hands that have done this work 100 times before. In the soft light, each roof holds a fine lace of frost along its ridge, glinting faintly as the sun begins its slow climb. Mist hangs, low over the ground, curling between the houses and spilling across the narrow lanes. It catches the light in a way that makes every movement slow and dreamlike. Somewhere, a rooster announces the morning with a note that feels both confident and weary, as though he has made this call every day for years without ever quite growing bored of it. The path beneath your feet is nothing more than packed earth, uneven in places, the edges softened by tufts of grass. On either side, woven willow fences lean slightly under their own age, their pale branches slick with dew. You reach out, almost without thinking, and brush your fingertips against one. The cold of the moisture is immediate, the surface smooth but slightly rough where the bark has peeled away. From somewhere nearby comes the low, steady crackle of a hearth fire. The smell of it reaches you slowly, wood smoke, faintly sweet, mingled with the sharper scent of damp oak. You breathe in deeply, and for a moment you think of how rare this smell is in your own time, how different it feels to have the warmth of a home announced first by scent, long before you step inside. You pull your shawl tighter around your shoulders. It is thick and coarse, made of spun wool in a natural brown-grey that has never seen chemical dye. The fibers scratch faintly at your neck, but there is comfort in their weight, in the way they trap the heat of your body close to your skin. Your fingers work the edge of the fabric unconsciously, tracing the uneven line where it has been repaired, perhaps more than once. The village is not busy yet. You can see a figure or two moving slowly through the mist, a woman carrying a clay jug, her steps careful along the slick ground, a man bent over the wheel of a cart, adjusting something in the dim light. Their movements are unhurried, almost meditative, as if the day itself has not yet decided to gather speed. A breeze drifts through, cool enough to lift the fine hairs on your arms. It carries with it a patchwork of scents, the faint, sharp tang of animals from a nearby pen, the damp, green smell of grass heavy with dew, the warm, faintly sweet trace of baked bread from a cottage you cannot yet see. The wind shifts again, and the scents fade, replaced by the quiet smell of earth, pure and grounding. You listen, and first it seems silent. But slowly the sounds emerge, the muted thud of something heavy being set down, the faint creak of wood, the rhythmic rasp of a broom sweeping a doorstep. Somewhere far off, a dog barks twice and then falls silent, as if reminded by the stillness that it is too early to make noise. You take a step forward, and feel the ground give slightly beneath your boots. The soles pick up a thin layer of damp earth, and you imagine the slow work of cleaning them later, a task as ordinary here as checking your phone might be in your own life. There is no rush, no press of urgency. The day stretches before you, unbroken by appointments or alarms, its pace set entirely by the rhythm of human hands and the turning of the sun. You pass a small garden plot on your left, its bare soil dark and wet from the night's mist. A few stubborn greens still cling to life, hardy herbs and winter vegetables, their leaves curling slightly at the edges. The air here smells faintly of thyme, and you catch yourself smiling at the thought that its scent hasn't changed in centuries. Somewhere to your right, a wooden door creaks open. The child peers out, wrapped in a blanket, hair tousled from sleep. He looks at you with the open curiosity of someone who does not see many strangers. You nod, and he ducks back inside, the door closing softly behind him. As you move further into the village, you begin to notice the details that are easy to overlook, the way the thatch on the roof bends in a slight curve where rain has fallen heavily, the fine spiderweb clinging to the corner of a doorway, jeweled with droplets, the tiny worn path that skirts the edge of a cottage, where countless feet have passed over the years. The sun is still low, the light pale and diffuse, but it touches the mist now, turning it to a soft golden haze. The world feels suspended in this moment, not yet fully awake, but far from sleep, You breathe in once more, slow and deep, letting the scents and sounds settle in you like a warm drink on a cold morning. Here, in this place, time is not something to keep up with. It is something to move within, to follow gently, to let guide you through the day ahead. And today, you will walk that slow path from the first spark of the morning fire to the last flicker of the evening candle. You wake to a quiet so complete it feels like part of the air itself, a quiet with weight, like the thick wool of a blanket pulled over the senses. There is no hum of an appliance, no distant whoosh of traffic, only the faintest creak of the wooden frame around you as it settles, and the slow, steady rhythm of your own breathing. When you open your eyes, the light is dim and muted, the kind of half-light that lingers just before the sun truly reaches the horizon. It seeps into the room in narrow threads, finding its way through the uneven seams of the shutters and the tiny spaces between the woven wattle walls. The light here is softer than the light you know, filtered by mist, colored faintly by the warm tones of the earth-packed walls. You are lying on a mattress filled with straw. It is lumpy in places, but it molds to your shape in a way that feels almost custom-made by the nights before. When you shift, you hear the dry whisper of the straw rubbing against itself, a sound so delicate you find yourself pausing to listen. Beneath you, the bed frame is made of rough-hewn wood, each plank smoothed only by the years, not by any machine. The smell in the room is a quiet mix, the dry, grassy scent of the straw, the faint resinous note from the timber beams above, the subtle hint of smoke that has drifted in from the hearth overnight. You take a breath and notice how clean it is compared to modern air, no trace of chemicals, no artificial fragrance, just the honest presence of materials shaped by hand and time. Your blanket is made from thick wool, the fibers coarse but warm. Its weight is comforting, pressing gently down over you, keeping in the heat your body has made through the night. You run your hand along its edge and feel the slight irregularities of hand-spun yarn, the way each thread carries the memory of the sheep it came from. The air is cold. Not unpleasantly so, but enough that your fingers hesitate to leave the shelter of the blanket. When you exhale, you can see the faint wisp of your own breath, curling briefly in the air before disappearing. Your toes, tucked deep beneath the layers, are aware of the chill waiting for them beyond the bed. You notice the sounds now, a soft rustle from outside the room, the slow pad of footsteps along a packed earth floor. Somewhere, faint but distinct, comes the rhythmic thunk of a log being set onto a chopping block. You realize someone in the household has already risen to tend the fire, to coax the day into warmth. Beside your bed sits a small, low chest made of wood, its surface marked by years of used scratches from buckles, faint rings where a jug once sat. On top rests a clay pitcher, a simple wooden comb with worn teeth, and a folded length of undid cloth. These are the kind of objects that would be tucked into a museum display in your own time, but here they are simply what they are, part of the morning, part of living. The window is no more than a shuttered opening. Its latch is a simple wooden peg that could be lifted with one hand. Imagine opening it and feeling the bite of the morning air, but you remain still for now. The thought of leaving this cocoon of warmth is a battle between comfort and curiosity. From the other side of the wall comes a quiet murmur of voices, low, practical tones, the kind that don't need to be loud, because the house itself is small enough to carry every sound. You catch only fragments, the mention of water, the mention of oats. It is enough to paint the outline of what the morning will bring. Your gaze drifts upward to the roof beams, darkened with age and smoke. They are thick, sturdy, but not uniform. Each beam curves slightly, shaped by the tree it once was. In the dim light, they seem to hold the night in place, a reminder that this shelter stood through seasons far harsher than this morning's mild cold. A part of you wonders how many mornings have begun this way in this very space. Centuries, perhaps, of people waking to the same dim light, the same slow stirring of the household, the same quiet anticipation of the day's work. It is a thought that steadies you, making you feel both small and part of something enduring. You shift again, and the straw mattress sighs, softly beneath you. The wool blanket slips a little, and the cold brushes against your cheek, nudging you toward the inevitable you will have to rise. The tasks of the day wait beyond the comfort of this bed, the well, the spindle, the small market down the road. But for a moment longer, you allow yourself to sink back into the warmth, listening to the life of the house beginning around you. The sound of a wooden door opening reaches you, followed by the faint rush of cooler air into the hall. There is the quick scrape of iron against clay, the poker stirring the embers. Then, a soft pop as a stick of wood catches and begins to burn. The smell of smoke sharpens slightly, mixing with the faint, nutty aroma of grain that must have been set to cook already. You draw the blanket closer one last time, sealing in that warmth, as though you could carry it with you into the chill. In your own time, you might tap a button to summon heat instantly, but here, warmth is something you rise to earn, something coaxed from fire, from wool, from the slow movement of blood through cold limbs. The voices in the other room grow a little louder now, not in volume, but in energy, the kind of liveliness that comes with the first tasks of the day. You know you cannot linger much longer. But for now, in this small, dim room under a roof of thatch and smoke-darkened beams, you allow yourself the final moments of rest. The morning is waiting, and it will not rush you. You step from your bed, the cold of the packed earth floor meeting your bare feet with a shock that travels up your legs. It is not the biting cold of snow, but a deep, grounded chill, as if the earth itself has been storing the night inside it. Each step feels deliberate, careful. The floor is uneven in places, and you tread slowly to keep the warmth of the blanket still draped over your shoulders. The main room is dim, lit only by the faint seep of grey morning through the cracks in the shutters. The hearth sits at the very center, a low, round structure of clay and stone. Its heart still holds the memory of last night's fire, a faint glow deep among the ashes, like the slow pulse of a sleeping creature. An older woman, perhaps the mistress of the house, perhaps a mother or elder sister, kneels before it. The hands are practiced and sure. She lifts the iron poker and stirs the ash with a careful, scraping sound, coaxing the embers to show their color. Small sparks blink awake, flaring briefly before fading. You notice the way her breath curls into the cool air, the way the pale light catches the lines on her face, each one earned by seasons of work. She takes a small bundle of dry twigs and lays them gently across the glowing coals, her movements almost ceremonial. Then comes a stick of pine, resin glistening faintly along its split edges. The scent begins almost at once, that familiar sweetness of pine sap meeting heat, sharper than the soft smoke that still lingers from the night before. You breathe in deeply, and the smell fills you with a warmth that is not yet physical, but emotional, the kind that comes from knowing a fire will be ready soon. There is a quiet patience in this moment. In your own time, warmth is a switch, a thermostat, a matter of seconds. Here, it is a craft. You can feel the difference in your own body, the way you lean forward toward the hearth, the way you follow the progress of the flame as if it were a living thing that must be encouraged. The twigs catch with a faint, dry crackle. The thread of flame curls upward, then another and another, until the bundle is glowing. The older woman adds a larger log, turning it slightly so it will rest against the burning twigs, feeding them and being fed in return. The light in the room shifts subtly. The grey morning now mingles with the soft gold of firelight, and shadows dance along the rough plaster walls. You notice how the beams overhead seem to absorb the glow, dark and solid against the flicker. From somewhere behind you, a young voice calls softly, a child still rubbing sleep from their eyes. They are answered with a few quiet words, and the child's footsteps join yours in the slow approach to the fire. The older woman shifts to make space, and you kneel beside her, feeling the gentle wash of heat on your skin. The iron pot is already hanging from its hook above the hearth, a simple vessel blackened by years of smoke and flame. Into it, she pours a measure of water from a clay jug, the liquid sloshing softly before settling. A pinch of salt follows, then a handful of oats, each one dropping into the water with a faint, dry tick. The first bubbles are slow and shy, breaking the surface with a small hiss. The scent of cooking oats rises with the steam, warm, nutty, and a little sweet. You close your eyes for a moment and let the smell wrap around you. It is not the overwhelming scent of syrup or spice. It is something gentler, humbler, but no less comforting. She hands you a wooden spoon, its handle worn smooth from countless meals. When the porridge thickens, she ladles it into a small wooden bowl and passes it to you. The surface gleams faintly in the light, and you wrap your hands around it, letting the heat seep into your fingers. The first spoonful is hot, almost too hot, and you hold it in your mouth for a moment before swallowing. The warmth travels down your throat and into your chest, loosening the chill in your bones. It is simple, just oats, water, and salt, but in this place, simplicity is not a lack. It is the whole point. Around the fire, the others eat quietly. There is no rush. The day's work will take its share of energy, but the morning belongs to the hearth. You notice the way people glance at the fire between bites, as if checking on a friend, making sure it is still strong. Outside, the sky is still pale and heavy with mist. but you can sense the village beginning to stir, a distant door creaking open, the muffled thud of boots on the path, a low voice calling to an animal in its pen. The fire here is like the sun in miniature, marking the true start of the day. When your bowl is empty, you set it aside and extend your hands toward the flame, turning them slowly to catch the heat evenly. Your fingers are no longer stiff, your shoulders no longer tight. The blanket around you still holds the fire's warmth, and you think of how different this is from your own mornings at home where heat is invisible, instant, and easy to forget. Here, you feel it being made. You watch it grow. You share it with others. The older woman adds another log, and the flames accept it without hesitation, curling around it like a cat settling into a lap. You know it will burn for hours now. Its work as steady as your own will be. And with the hearth awake, so too is the household. You stand slowly, reluctant to leave the circle of warmth, but there is water to fetch, wool to spin, and perhaps, if time allows, a visit to the market. You take one last look at the fire, committing it to memory, the glow of its heart, the shape of its light on the walls, the soft song of its crackle. The day has begun. The warmth of the fire lingers on your skin as you step toward the doorway, but the moment you push open the heavy wooden door, the morning air greets you with a cool embrace. It is fresh and damp, carrying the faint sweetness of turned earth and the sharper tang of wet wood. You take a deep breath, and the air fills your chest like clear water poured into a clean vessel. The path to the well is not long, but it winds through the heart of the village. The ground beneath your boots is soft from the night's mist, each step pressing into the soil with a muffled sound. Here and there, the earth is patched with scattered straw tossed down to soak up mud, trampled flat by feet and hooves. You carry the water vessel in your hands, a wooden bucket bound with iron hoops, its surface smooth from years of use. The handle is worn to the shape of countless palms, and it swings gently with each step, its weight light now but soon to be heavy. Around you, the village is slowly waking. A thin column of smoke rises from one cottage chimney, curling into the pale sky before fading into the mist. From somewhere nearby comes the low murmur of voices, perhaps neighbors greeting one another, trading a word or two before their own chores pull them away. A dog trots across the lane ahead of you, pauses to sniff at the base of a fence, then moves on with quiet purpose. The well stands near the center of the village, a solid structure of stone worn smooth at the edges. Its circular wall is cool and dark, beads of moisture clinging to the surface like tiny jewels. Above it, a sturdy wooden frame holds the pulley, the rope hanging still in the morning calm. You place your bucket on the stone ledge for a moment and rest your hands on the rim, feeling the chill seep into your skin. You glance down into the shaft. It is deep, the darkness at its bottom reflecting only the smallest glimmer of light where the water waits. You can hear it, faint but steady, a slow drip from somewhere along the stone wall, the occasional ripple as the surface shifts. Grasping the rope, you begin to turn the wooden crank. The wheel creaks in protest, but it moves, lowering the bucket into the cool shadow. You listen for the sound you know is coming, the hollow splash as the bucket breaks the water's surface, the gentle slosh as it settles into place. There it is, soft, satisfying, a promise of what you've come for. Let the bucket sink, giving it a moment to fill. Then you begin to wind the crank the other way, your hands tightening on the handle. The rope is damp, the fibers cool against your fingers. The weight grows with each turn, and your arms feel the effort in a way that is strangely grounding, every muscle engaged in a task with a clear, simple purpose. As the bucket rises into view, drops of water spill over its rim and patter onto the stones, darkening them in small, irregular circles. You set it on the ledge and look down at the water inside. It is clear, faintly rippling, catching the muted light of the sky above. You can smell its freshness, clean, mineral, almost metallic in its purity. Lifting it by the handle, you feel the shift in balance, the water swaying gently inside. You are aware of its weight now, the way it tugs at your arm with each step. In your own time, water comes with the twist of a tap, effortless and silent. Here, every drop is carried, earned through the simple act of walking, lowering, lifting. You make your way back along the path, careful to keep the bucket steady. Passing one of the cottages, you see a woman kneeling in her doorway, scrubbing a wooden board with brisk strokes. She looks up just long enough to give a small nod before returning to her work. Further along, a man emerges from behind a fence carrying a bundle of kindling, the scent of freshly split wood drifting into the air as he passes. The bucket grows heavier in your grip, not unbearably so, but enough to remind you that you will do this again tomorrow, and the day after, and every day after that. The well is both the lifeline of the village and a daily obligation, its rhythm as dependable as the rising and setting of the sun. By the time you reach the doorway of your cottage, your arm is warm from the effort, your fingers curled tightly around the handle. You step inside and set the bucket down near the hearth. The sound of it meeting the floor is soft, almost muffled by the packed earth. The older woman glances up from where she is tending the fire. Her eyes flick briefly to the water, then to you, and she gives a small smile, the quiet acknowledgement of a task done and done well. You realize there will be no praise spoken, no applause. The work here is part of life itself, woven into the fabric of each day, like the straw in the roof above your head. You dip a ladle into the bucket and lift it to your lips. The water is cool, startlingly so after the warmth of the fire. It tastes of stone and air and time, each swallow a clean, steady reminder that you are living in a place where even the simplest things carry the weight of effort and care. Outside, the mist is beginning to thin, the edges of the village emerging more clearly against the sky. The day has opened itself fully now, ready for the next task. As you glance back at the bucket by the hearth, the water inside stilling after its journey, you understand that in this village, nothing, not even a sip of water, is taken for granted. The water sits by the hearth, the fire burns steady, and the morning has stretched itself open. It is time to walk to the market, not the kind with wide aisles and bright lights, but a gathering of neighbors in the open air, the whole affair small enough to cross in 20 paces. You take a woven basket from its place on the wall. The willow handle is smooth under your palm, polished by countless trips like this one. Inside, the weave is slightly frayed in places, small ends of fiber poking out where time has loosened them. Think of how in your own life, baskets are decoration, not necessity. Here, it is a tool as vital as the hearth or the well. The path to the market begins just beyond the cottage gate. You follow it past gardens still beaded with dew, past fences where hens scratch at the dirt for their morning meal. The air smells of hay and earth, with faint notes of smoke trailing from nearby chimneys. The mist has begun to lift, though it still lingers in low hollows between the houses, softening every edge. As you near the center of the village, the sounds grow, the low hum of voices, the thump of a cart wheel over uneven ground, the distant bleat of a goat. These are not the shouts and bustle of a crowded city market. Here, every sound has space around it, each voice carrying clearly in the open air. The market square is little more than a widening of the main lane, where several stalls and tables have been set up. Some are nothing more than a plank laid over two barrels, others are simple cloths spread upon the ground. The sellers stand close to their goods, hands resting easily on hips or folded in front of them. You pause at the edge for a moment, letting your eyes take in the scene. To one side, a woman arranges skeins of dyed wool in muted shades of ochre, russet, and deep green. The colors are not as bright as those made by modern dyes, but they hold a richness that feels alive, each hue drawn from roots, bark, or leaves gathered with care. She glances up and greets you with a nod. Next to her, a man in a heavy leather apron tends to a small display of iron tools, hooks, nails, and hinges, their surfaces dark with the bloom of the forge. The air around him smells faintly of soot and hot metal, even though his fire is not here but at his workshop. Across the way, a farmer lays out baskets of apples and pears. The fruit is small by modern standards, its skin slightly uneven, but the scent is immediate and inviting, sweet, with a tart edge that makes your mouth water. He slices one open with a small knife, the flesh pale and crisp, and offers you a piece. You bite into it, and the juice floods your mouth, sharper and more vivid than you expect. You move slowly from stall to stall, taking in the textures and scents, the coarse weave of linen cloth, the peppery smell of bunches of watercress tied with twine, the warm, comforting aroma of small round loaves cooling on a wooden board. The baker, a round-cheeked woman with flour dusted on her sleeves, slides one loaf closer to you. Its crust is firm beneath your fingertips, and when she cuts into it, the inside steams gently in the cool air. Conversations weave through the market like threads in a loom. Neighbors trade not just goods but news: who is mending a roof, whose cow has calved, what weather might be coming. There is laughter here, but it is soft, not showy, the kind that rises naturally between people who know each other well. You stop at a table where a young woman sells small bundles of dried herbs. The air here is fragrant with rosemary, thyme, and sage, their scents mingling into a warm, resinous blend. She tells you which ones are best for cooking and which are kept for healing, her voice low and sure. You choose a bundle of thyme, the leaves still holding a hint of green, and place it in your basket. Coins change hands only sometimes. More often, there is barter: a skein of wool for a measure of grain, a loaf of bread for a length of linen. It's a quiet negotiation, sealed with a nod or a clasp of hands. You think about how, in your own time, shopping is a solitary act, each person moving quickly with a list in hand. Here, it is a conversation, a slow exchange where the story of an item matters as much as its price. By the time your basket has begun to fill a loaf of bread, a bundle of herbs, a small piece of cheese wrapped in cloth, the sun has climbed higher. The mist is gone now, replaced by a pale blue sky streaked with thin clouds. The light falls gently over the market, catching in the threads of wool, the polished wood of tool handles, the bright eyes of the seller who catches your gaze from across the square. You begin the walk back, the weight of the basket pulling gently at your arm. The smells of the market cling to you: bread, apples, smoke, and the faint medicinal sharpness of herbs. Each step takes you farther from the hum of voices, back toward the steadier, quieter rhythm of the cottage. When you reach the gate, you glance once more over your shoulder. The market is still there, the figures moving slowly among the stalls, their gestures familiar, their pace unhurried. It will be there again tomorrow, and the next day, as much a part of the village as the well or the hearth. Step inside, set the basket down by the table, and feel the small satisfaction of the morning's work: water fetched, fire kindled, and the day's provisions gathered. Outside, life continues, but here inside, the air is warm and smells of bread, wood smoke, and the faint sweetness of oats still lingering from breakfast. The day is far from over, but for now, the market is behind you, and the quiet work of the afternoon is about to begin. The market's chatter still hums faintly in your mind as you close the cottage door behind you. The warmth of the hearth wraps around you again, mingling with the sense you've carried back: bread still warm from the baker's board, herbs bundled tight, the faint sweetness of apples. You set your basket down on the table and take a quiet moment just to breathe in the air, rich with the morning's work. In the corner, by the window where the light falls most clearly, sits the spinning wheel. Its frame is simple and sturdy, made of smooth, honey-colored wood that gleams faintly where hands have polished it over years of use. You notice the small irregularities in its shape, the marks of handcrafting: a tiny knot in the wood, a subtle curve in the leg. The treadle rests still now, waiting for your foot to press it into motion. Beside it is a low basket filled with washed and carded wool. The fibers are soft and airy, with a faint lanolin scent that clings to your fingers when you touch it, a smell both earthy and clean, like the sheep pastures it came from. In your own time, textiles arrive finished, folded, and anonymous. Here, you are part of every step, from fleece to thread. You take a small handful of wool, gently teasing it apart with your fingers. The fibers separate easily, light as breath, each one catching the light in a faint halo. You settle onto the stool before the wheel, place your foot on the treadle, and begin to press down slowly. The wheel turns with a low, steady hum, the wooden spokes blurring into a soft circle. With practiced care, you feed the wool toward the spindle, your fingers controlling the flow, drawing it out into a thin, even strand. The fibers twist together, the wheel pulling them smoothly, transforming fluff into thread. The sound is quiet but constant, the faint whisper of the fibers sliding, the gentle click of the wheel at the end of each rotation. Your hands work in rhythm with your foot, a slow and steady dance that feels older than memory. The wool slips between your fingers like a living thing, warm from your touch. You can feel when the twist is right, tight enough to hold, loose enough to remain soft. Outside the window, the village moves at its own slow pace. You catch glimpses between the turning spokes: a man leading a small cart, a child chasing a chicken, a woman hanging damp linen on a line. Their movements are soundless from here, the glassy surface of the moment broken only by the wheel's gentle hum. The strand of yarn grows, winding itself neatly onto the spindle. You pause now and then, to smooth it with your fingers, to check for evenness. Imperfections are part of the work: a slightly thicker section here, a knot there, and they remind you that this is thread spun for life, not for show. In the quiet, your mind begins to wander, not in distraction, but in a kind of deep, slow thinking. You think of how different this is from the instant creation of your own age, where a machine can spin miles of thread in a heartbeat. Here, each inch is the result of a choice, a movement, a moment given entirely to the task. You realize that this, too, is a kind of wealth: the time to make something with care. The light shifts as the sun climbs, spilling more warmth across the floorboards. Dust motes drift lazily in the beam, turning in small, deliberate spirals as if they, too, are part of the wheel's rhythm. The wool in your lap glows softly, the individual fibers catching the light before they vanish into the twist of the yarn. After a while, the spindle grows full. You stop the wheel, the silence after it's turning deep and almost startling. You unwind the skein carefully, looping it over your forearm to keep it from tangling. The finished yarn is warm from your hands, smelling faintly of lanolin and wood smoke. You coil it neatly and set it aside, a small but tangible piece of the day's work. There is satisfaction in seeing it there on the table, not just as yarn, but as a bridge between the sheep in the fields, the tools at your feet, and the garments it will one day become. You understand that in this place, nothing appears fully formed. Everything carries the memory of the hands that shaped it. You return the wheel to stillness, covering the basket of wool with a cloth to keep it clean. The air in the room has grown warmer, touched by the afternoon sun. Outside, you hear the distant ring of a hammer on iron, the clink of a pail, the call of someone greeting a neighbor. Life in the village continues, as it always does, with each person tending their part of the whole. When you stand, your legs feel the quiet weight of having sat so still, your hands the faint echo of the wool's texture. You move toward the hearth, where the fire still burns low and steady, and place another log on the embers. The flames accept it with a soft sigh, just as the wheel accepted the wool. The afternoon stretches ahead, the work shifting from one task to another in a gentle flow. But for now, the spinning is done, and the quiet pride of it remains with you, a thread running through the fabric of the day. The steady hum of the spinning wheel has faded, leaving the cottage in a deeper quiet. The sun has climbed higher, its light now spilling warmly across the table and the worn floorboards. You can feel the slow pull of hunger in your stomach, not the sharp edge of skipped meals, but the gentle insistence that comes after a morning's work. It is time for the midday meal. The older woman moves toward the table, her steps unhurried, her hands carrying the knowledge of countless days like this one. She brings a round loaf of bread from the basket you carried home from the market, setting it on the table's surface. The crust is dark and firm, its texture rough under your fingertips when you reach to steady it. A small knife rests beside it, its blade dulled by years of sharpening on a whetstone. She draws it through the loaf, the crust crackling softly before yielding to the pale, dense crumb within. A wisp of steam escapes, carrying the warm, yeasty scent of fresh bread, a smell that seems to settle into the air and make it feel somehow more alive. Next comes a small wheel of cheese wrapped in cloth. She unwraps it carefully, folding the fabric back as though revealing something delicate. The cheese is pale, with a thin, natural rind, its scent faintly tangy, touched with the richness of milk. She cuts a wedge and places it on a wooden plate, the knife moving with quiet precision. From the windowsill, she takes a clay pot holding a bundle of green herbs, parsley and chives gathered from a small garden patch. Their scent rises as she chops them, sharp and fresh, scattering them over the cheese with a practiced hand. You take a seat at the table, the wood worn smooth by the years, each groove a notch, a small record of meals past. The bowl before you holds a simple stew, its broth cloudy with the starch of beans, flecked with herbs and carrying a few tender pieces of root vegetable. The steam curls upward, and you breathe it in, earthy, sweet, and savory all at once. You tear a piece of bread from the loaf. The crust resists at first, then gives way, and you use it to scoop up some of the stew. The bread soaks in the broth, softening, and when you take a bite, the warmth spreads through you, grounding you in this moment. The flavors are honest, nothing hidden, nothing added beyond what the land and the hands here can provide. Round the table, the others eat quietly. There is conversation, but it is low and occasional, the kind that fits into the rhythm of eating rather than pulling focus from it. The comment about the weather, a note about a neighbor's new calf, the mention of mending that needs to be done before the evening. Through the open window, you can hear the faint life of the village continuing, the distant creak of a cart, the laughter of children at play, the bark of a dog followed by the quick scolding voice of its owner. These sounds weave into the background like a soft, living fabric, connecting you to everything beyond the cottage walls without pulling you away from the table. You notice how naturally the meal unfolds without haste. There is no rush to clear plates, no glance at a clock to mark the minutes. In your own time, a meal is often something slotted between tasks, hurried along by schedules and screens. Here, it is an anchor in the day, a pause that makes the work before and after feel balanced. Your bowl is nearly empty. You savor the last spoonful slowly, letting the warmth linger. The bread is nearly gone. Only a few crumbs left on the wooden board. The cheese, too, has been reduced to a small wedge, carefully wrapped again for later. The older woman collects the bowls, stacking them neatly, but does not hurry to wash them. That will come in its own time. For now, she sets the cloth back over the bread and moves toward the hearth to check the fire. You rise and help her, placing another log onto the glowing embers, the flames catching with a gentle crackle. The room is filled with the soft scent of the meal just finished, mingling with the smoke from the fire and the faint green of the chopped herbs. You feel the deep, quiet satisfaction of being fed not just your body, but your senses, your sense of belonging in this moment and place. As you step toward the doorway, the sunlight glances off the threshold, bright enough now to make you squint. The afternoon's work waits beyond it, but for a few breaths more, you linger in the stillness that follows a shared meal. The warmth of the midday meal lingers as you clear a small space near the window. Outside, the light has shifted, the golden tones of morning replaced by a softer, steadier glow that belongs to early afternoon. It falls across the table in a long, angled beam, warming the wood and catching in the fine motes of dust drifting through the air. On the table, a small wooden box holds the tools for sewing. Its lid lifts with a quiet creak, revealing a neat arrangement, a bone-handled needle case, a few smooth wooden spools of thread, a pair of small iron scissors, and a thimble worn thin at one edge. These are not just tools, they are the quiet inheritance of work done over years, passed between hands that have known the same tasks for generations. You take up the garment that needs attention, a woolen tunic, its color a muted brown, the hem worn thin from use. The fabric is warm and slightly rough under your fingers, and you can feel the places where it has softened with age. Near the cuff, a small tear waits for your needle, its frayed edges curling back like petals around the hole. Threading the needle is an act that asks for patience. You draw a length of thread from the spool, a soft, even brown, chosen to blend into the fabric. The thread has a faint twist to it, catching slightly on your skin. You guide it through the small eye of the needle, your breath held for the moment when it slips through. The thread emerges cleanly on the other side, and you tie a small knot at its end. The first stitch goes in close to the tear, the needle sliding through the cloth with a quiet, deliberate sound. Your hands know to keep the tension even, not so tight that the fabric puckers, not so loose that the repair will fail. Each stitch is a small act of restoration, a promise that the garment will serve for another season. From your seat, you can hear the life of the cottage around you, the faint pop and sigh of the fire, the soft scrape of a wooden chair shifting across the floor, the slow footfall of someone passing outside the door. These sounds settle into the rhythm of your work, each one a marker of time moving gently forward. You pause now and then to smooth the fabric beneath your fingers, to guide the tear's edges neatly together. The thread forms a small line of even steps across the gap, disappearing into the wool as though it had always been there. The work is quiet, but it holds its own satisfaction, the kind of care that is not rushed, that does not seek to be seen. In your own time, clothes are replaced rather than repaired. A tear is often the end of a garment's life, not the beginning of another chapter. Here, nothing is discarded lightly. Every fibre carries the labour of the sheep in the field, the spinner at the wheel, the weaver at the loom. To throw it away would be to throw away their time, their hands, their care. Light from the window grows warmer as the afternoon deepens. Shadows lengthen across the table, and the beam of sunlight shifts slowly toward the far wall. You adjust your seat to keep your work in the light, the golden glow softening the color of the wool, making the stitches appear to melt into place. You finish the seam with a final, firm stitch, then knot the thread and snip it close. The scissors make a quiet, satisfying sound as they close. You run your fingers over the repair. The fabric is whole again, the tear only a memory hidden in the even line of stitches. Folding the tunic carefully, you place it aside, ready for the next time it is needed. You glance into the sewing box again, taking note of the small supplies, the spools nearly empty, the needles fewer than before. These, too, are things to be minded, to be replaced only when truly necessary. Outside, a breeze stirs, carrying with it the faint scent of wood smoke and the sharper note of freshly cut hay from somewhere beyond the village. The air feels different, now not the crispness of morning, but the gentle breath of a day stretching toward its close. You return the tools to their box, closing the lid with care. The mending is done, but the quiet it brought remains with you, like the steady warmth of a stone after it has been in the sun. The cottage is peaceful. The fire burns low, The light has softened, and the afternoon stillness feels like an open hand, ready to guide you into whatever comes next. The mended tunic rests folded neatly on the table, the sewing box closed, the afternoon light still holding steady in the window. You stand and stretch, feeling the slow pull of muscles that have been bent over a table for some time. The air in the cottage is warm from the hearth, the scent of wool and smoke mingling into something both familiar and grounding. Stepping toward the door, you push it open and are met with the soft brightness of late afternoon. The sun has begun its descent, and the shadows now fall long and angled across the village lane. The air carries a gentler warmth than midday, tempered by a light breeze that brushes cool against your face. Walk toward the low wooden gate and unlatch it with a soft creak. Beyond it, the lane curves between cottages, each with its own small garden or fenced yard. A few hens peck idly at the dirt, their feathers catching the light in dull golds and browns. Somewhere nearby, you hear the rhythmic thump of a pestle in a mortar, grinding grain or herbs. A neighbor approaches from the opposite direction, a woman in a blue-dyed gown, her apron marked with faint streaks of flour. She carries a shallow basket in the crook of her arm, half filled with herbs, and a small bundle wrapped in cloth rests on top. Her face is lined but kind, her eyes lighting when they meet yours. You exchange greetings, her voice carrying the warmth of someone who has spoken these same words at the same point in the day countless times. She asks if the repairs on the tunic went well, and you nod, telling her the tear is no longer visible. She smiles in quiet approval, the kind that doesn't need further comment. As you stand there, others pass by, a man leading a goat tethered with a frayed rope, the animal's hooves clicking softly against the packed earth, a child clutching a small wooden hoop, rolling it ahead with a stick and chasing after it with delighted focus, an older man balancing a pail of water from the well, moving slowly so as not to spill a drop. Each offers a nod or a few words, the exchange is brief, but carrying the weight of shared life. You and the woman in blue fall into easy conversation. She tells you of her herb garden, how the thyme is thriving this season, how the sage has grown woody and will need trimming soon. You share that you brought home a bundle of thyme from the market this morning, and she nods, saying that in winter, dried thyme will be as precious as salt. The talk drifts to other matters, a roof in need of repair before the first frost, the arrival of a distant cousin to help with the harvest, the rumor that a traveling peddler may be passing through in the next fortnight. None of it is urgent, but all of it is shared, each piece like a thread weaving you further into the fabric of the village. As you listen, you realize how different this is from the conversations in your own time, where words are often rushed, condensed into brief exchanges on screens or spoken while the mind is elsewhere. Here, there is space between sentences, a rhythm that allows for pauses, for looking at the sky or the path while you speak. The sun dips a little lower, the light deepening into a softer gold. You notice how it falls across the roofs, catching on the edges of thatch, making the straw seem to glow. The woman shifts the basket on her arm and says she must be getting back before the bread in her oven finishes baking. You part with another warm exchange, knowing you'll see each other again soon, perhaps tomorrow, perhaps even later today. You linger a little in the lane, breathing in the air, now carrying a faint scent of baking bread from her cottage. Across the way, another neighbor waves you over, an older man mending the wooden gate of his small yard. He shows you the new hinge he's made, the iron dark from the forge, and tells you it should last another 10 years if treated well. You run your fingers along the smooth metal, appreciating the solid feel of it. The conversation here, too, is unhurried. It is not about filling silence, but about sharing a moment of the day. The talk is like the weather, the last market day, a memory of a year when the harvest was especially good. You find yourself smiling more than speaking, content simply to stand and listen. As the light begins to soften further, you make your way back toward your own gate. The village is quieter now. Many have returned indoors, their work shifting to the evening tasks that prepare the household for night. Lane feels calm, wrapped in the kind of peace that settles over a place where everyone knows the day's rhythm and their place within it. You close the gate behind you, the latch clicking softly, and step once more into the familiar warmth of the cottage. The fire glows low in the hearth, and the scent of wood smoke welcomes you back. The afternoon's conversations linger in your mind, small, simple, and yet holding the weight of connection. They are the kind of exchanges that do not ask for more than they give, that settle into memory like the sound of a gentle breeze through the thatch above your head. You step back inside, closing the door gently behind you. Air in the cottage feels slightly cooler now, the warmth of the hearth mingling with the faint freshness that drifted in from the lane. Late afternoon light filters through the small window, painting a soft rectangle of gold across the table. The shadows are longer now, stretching toward the hearth where the fire burns low and steady. The older woman is already gathering what will become the evening meal. On the table, she places a round earthenware pot, its surface darkened by years of cooking. Beside it lies a small bundle of carrots and parsnips, their roots still dusted with soil, the greens trimmed but not yet discarded. A few onions rest in a shallow basket, their papery skins rustling faintly as she moves them. You wash your hands in a wooden bowl set near the door, the water cool against your skin, and join her at the table. She passes you a small knife with a handle worn smooth from many fingers before yours. The blade has been sharpened often, its edge keen enough to slide easily into the vegetables. You begin to peel the carrots, the skin curling away in long, thin ribbons. The scent rises immediately earthy and faintly sweet and clings to your fingers. The sound of the knife against the wood is soft and steady, a rhythm that seems to match the quiet pace of the day's end. Beside you, she slices the onions, the sharp scent filling the air and making your eyes water just enough to blur the edges of the room. The chopped vegetables are gathered into a clay bowl, their colors muted but warm in the fading light. The carrots glow a gentle orange, the parsnips a pale cream, the onions translucent where they've been sliced thin. She carries them to the hearth, where the pot has been set over the fire. A splash of water hisses softly as it meets the hot clay, followed by a low puff of steam. Into the pot go the onions first, the heat coaxing out their sweetness. The scent changes almost instantly, the sharpness mellowing into something rich and inviting. You stir them with a wooden spoon, the handle warm in your hand, feeling the slight resistance as the onions soften. The carrots and parsnips follow, their edges catching the heat, their colors deepening. The woman adds a pinch of salt from a small pottery jar, its grains coarse and uneven. From a bundle hanging above the hearth, she takes a sprig of thyme, brittle from drying, and crumbles it between her fingers. The herb releases its fragrance, sharp, green, and comforting, mingling with the steam rising from the pot. While the stew begins to simmer, you prepare a small loaf of bread for toasting by the fire. It is yesterday's bread, firm and dense, perfect for absorbing broth. You cut it into thick slices, each one catching crumbs in its rough texture. Near the edge of the hearth, you place them on a small iron rack so the heat can crisp the edges and warm the centers. The room fills with a blend of scents, the sweetness of root vegetables, the herbal note of thyme, the warm, yeasty smell of bread as it toasts. It is a fragrance that feels like a blanket drawn close, a signal that the day's work is nearly done. You glance toward the window. Outside, the sky is deepening into shades of rose and grey, the first hints of twilight pooling in the corners of the village. The lane is quieter now, only the occasional sound of a voice calling or the muffled closing of a door. The stew bubbles softly, each rise of steam carrying its promise. You taste it from the wooden spoon. The broth is simple but full, the vegetables tender, but still holding their shape. It is not a meal of abundance, but of sufficiency, and there is a quiet satisfaction in knowing it has come from the market, the garden, and the hearth all within a single day. When the bread is ready, you set it on a wooden board, its crust now golden and crisp. The older woman ladles the stew into deep bowls, the steam curling up to meet your face as you carry them to the table. The bread is placed in the center, ready to be torn and dipped. The firelight flickers across the bowls, casting shadows that move slowly up the walls. You sit, the heat of the food warming your hands through the wood. The first bite is both gentle and grounding: soft carrot, sweet onion, the faint resin of thyme. You dip a piece of bread into the broth, watching it soak up the liquid before tasting it, the crisp crust giving way to the rich, hot center. Around the table, the conversation is as quiet as it was at midday, but now the voices are softer still, as if the light itself has calmed them. There is no hurry. The stew cools slowly, the bread is eaten piece by piece, and the fire burns on with a steady, reassuring glow. When the bowls are empty, you carry them to the side table, leaving them for washing later. The hearth is banked with another log, ensuring it will burn through the evening. The scent of the meal still lingers in the room, mingling with the smoke in a way that feels like it will remain until morning. Outside, darkness is beginning to settle, and the first stars prick faintly at the sky. Inside, the day feels gathered in, its work complete, its warmth drawn close. The bowls from supper rest quietly on the side table, the fire hums low in the hearth, and the warmth of the meal still settles comfortably in your belly. The air inside the cottage is calm, wrapped in the mingling scents of wood smoke, toasted bread, and thyme still lingering from the stew. Yet outside, the last light of day is drawing you to the door. You push it open slowly, as though not to disturb the evening, and step into the soft embrace of twilight. The sky has shifted to a deep, dusky blue, the horizon brushed with a final trace of pale gold where the sun has slipped away. Above, the first stars prick through the fading light, tiny points that seem almost shy in their arrival. The lane through the village is hushed now, its sounds softened as if muffled by the thickening night air. The ground under your feet is cool and slightly damp, holding the memory of the day's warmth only in its upper layer. You walk slowly, letting your eyes adjust to the changing light, each shape and shadow deepening in tone. Along the path, the cottages glow from within, each window holding a small, flickering square of firelight. These are not the bright, steady rectangles of electric light from your own time, but warm, shifting halos that spill into the dark like lanterns. They move when someone crosses the room inside, then settle again when stillness returns. From somewhere close, you hear the soft bleat of a goat in its pen, followed by the muted thud of a gate being latched for the night. The air carries the faint, dry scent of hay, mingling with the sharper tang of the nearby woodpile, where logs are stacked in careful rows. You pass by the garden plots, now shadows of themselves in the fading light. The leaves of late-season vegetables gleam faintly with the day's dew settling again, each droplet catching what little light remains. The air is cool enough now that you pull your shawl tighter around your shoulders, feeling its coarse wool warm against your skin. The village well stands in the center, its stone rim cool beneath your hand as you rest there for a moment. The rope hangs still, the bucket set aside for the night. You lean over just enough to hear the faint echo of the water below, a slow, patient sound that seems to exist outside of time. A neighbor walks past, their face just visible in the dimness, a small lantern swinging from their hand. Its light paints a circle on the ground as they move, bobbing gently with each step. You greet each other softly, no need for loud voices in a village where every sound carries, and they continue on, the lantern's glow shrinking until it disappears behind the curve of the lane. As you wander toward the far edge of the village, the fields open up before you. The tall grasses ripple faintly in the evening breeze, their dry stalks whispering together. Beyond them, the dark outline of the woods stands still, the trees swaying only at their highest branches. Above, the sky has deepened further, the stars gaining confidence now, their numbers growing. Pause here, breathing in the night air. It is clean and damp, touched with the scent of earth cooling after the sun, and somewhere, faintly, the distant sweetness of wood smoke drifting from another cottage. You think of how different night feels here compared to your own time, not just in sight and sound, but in depth, in the way darkness folds itself over the village like a protective cloak rather than something to be pushed back with bright lights. When you turn back toward the lane, the village looks smaller somehow, each cottage drawn closer by the soft edges of night. The windows glow warmly, the smoke from chimneys rising in thin, wavering threads before vanishing into the star-dusted sky. It is a sight that makes you slow your steps, letting the image imprint itself into your mind. As you pass by the cottages again, you catch glimpses of life inside, a woman leaning over her mending, the light glinting off her needle. A man sitting by the fire with a child on his knee, their heads bent close together, another household setting bread on a shelf for tomorrow. These moments are small, but they feel whole, each one a quiet proof of the day's completion. When you reach your own door again, you pause with your hand on the latch. The night has settled fully now, the village wrapped in its familiar hush. The only sound is the soft rustle of leaves in the breeze and the distant trickle of water somewhere beyond the fields. You step inside, greeted once more by the steady glow of the hearth. The door closes behind you with a soft wooden thud, shutting out the night, but not the peace it carries. The memory of the village bathed in evening light stays with you, as steady as the warmth from the fire. The door closes softly behind you, sealing out the cool night air. Inside, the cottage feels smaller, warmer, as though the walls themselves have drawn closer to hold in the heat. The fire in the hearth burns low now, its flames gentle, more glow than blaze. The light it casts is steady and amber, painting the walls with a warmth that reaches deeper than the air itself. The older woman moves quietly about the room, her steps slow, each gesture deliberate. From a small shelf above the hearth, she takes down a wooden cross, its edges smoothed by the touch of many hands. She sets it on the table, beside a stub of candle in a simple iron holder. The candle's wick is blackened from previous nights, and when she touches the flame from the hearth to it, it catches with a faint hiss, the wax softening instantly. You feel the shift in the room's energy, a subtle gathering of attention, a settling of sound. The air seems to still, as though even the walls are listening. The older woman sits, her hands folded in her lap, her eyes closing slowly. You take the seat beside her, the wooden chair cool under your palms. The candle between you burns with a steady flame, its light smaller than the fire's but somehow sharper, drawing the gaze inward. The first words of the prayer are spoken in a low, even tone. They are simple and steady, carrying no urgency, no demand, only thanks. Thanks for the warmth of the hearth, for the bread that filled the table, for the hands that worked and the bodies kept safe through the day. The words move like a stream, unhurried and clear, each one landing gently in the quiet air. You bow your head, letting the sound of her voice wash over you. You don't need to speak to feel included. The rhythm of the prayer is enough to draw you in. Your eyes fall closed and behind them you see the day replayed in small, vivid moments, the bucket of water rising from the well, the market's soft hum of voices, the wool twisting into thread beneath your hands, the bread breaking in the evening light. The older woman's voice shifts, turning from thanks to blessing for the neighbors whose faces you saw today, for the animals in the byres and pens, for the fields resting now under the cool night. There is a kind of wholeness in the way she speaks, a belief that nothing in the village is too small to be remembered, that every part has its place in the day's closing. A faint crackle from the hearth punctuates the prayer, like the night itself, adding its quiet accent. You feel the warmth of the fire on your cheek, the cooler touch of the candlelight on your hands. The shadows sway slightly with each movement of the flame, creating a rhythm you could watch for hours. When the prayer ends, there is no rush to move. The older woman keeps her eyes closed for a moment longer, as if listening to an echo you cannot hear. Then she opens them slowly, offering you a small nod, not just acknowledgement, but a quiet sharing of the peace the moment has brought. She leans forward to snuff the candle, pinching the wick between dampened fingers. The thin thread of smoke curls upward, carrying the faint scent of warm wax into the air. The cross is returned to its place on the shelf, the gesture as careful as when it was taken down. The room feels different now, not quieter, for it was already still, but deeper in its stillness, as if the act of prayer has drawn a blanket over the day. You sense that this is not just a ritual, but a way of placing everything in its right place before sleep, a way of setting aside the weight of the day so that rest can be clean and unbroken. Outside, the night presses softly against the walls, its presence felt but not unwelcome. Inside, the fire's glow remains, the embers holding their color like the last heartbeat of the day. The older woman begins to prepare for the hours ahead, banking the fire so it will last, laying a few extra logs nearby, drawing the shutters closed against the night. You watch her movements, slow and practiced, and think of how in your own time, the end of the day often comes in a rush, with lights switched off and alarms set for the morning. Here, the day is put to rest as carefully as a child being laid to bed, with warmth, with care, with words meant to hold the dark at bay. When the last shutter is closed and the latch on the door secured, the only light left in the room is the gentle, pulsing glow of the hearth. It flickers across the beams above, across the worn boards of the floor, and across your hands as you rest them on your knees. You take one slow breath, feeling it fill your chest, and let it out again, the sound disappearing into the deep quiet. The prayer lingers in your mind, not as a set of words, but as a feeling steady, warm, and whole. You know that when you close your eyes tonight, it will follow you into sleep, carrying the peace of this place with it. The fire in the hearth glows low and steady, a warm heart in the quiet room. Shadows move lazily along the walls, stretching and shrinking with each flicker. The older woman has finished securing the shutters and now moves toward the corner where the sleeping space waits, a low wooden frame, its surface filled with a thick mattress of straw. You step closer, drawn by the soft rustle as she shifts the bedding. The smell of the straw reaches you, first dry, faintly sweet, with a hint of the summer fields it once grew in. Beneath it lingers the earthy scent of the wooden frame, darkened by years of use. She lifts the woolen blanket aside, folds it over the stool nearby, and begins to shake the mattress gently. The straw shifts under her hands with a crisp whisper, settling into new places. You can hear the sound it makes, light, airy, almost like paper being turned in a book. She spreads it evenly, smoothing lumps with her palms, until the surface is level again. A few stray pieces of straw escape, catching the firelight as they fall to the floor. In your own time, a bed is a thing you rarely think about, always the same shape, the same softness. Here, each night's rest begins with this quiet act of care, The bed remade not with clean sheets and fluffing pillows, but with hands that know how to coax comfort from simple things. She gestures for you to help, and you reach to lift the edges of the straw mattress while she tucks in a fresh layer near the head of the bed. The straw is cool against your fingers, each stalk bending easily, rustling in response to your touch. Together, you lay a linen sheet over the top, its weave coarse but sturdy, the fibers faintly rough against your skin. Next comes the blanket, thick wool, heavy enough to hold in the warmth through the night. Its color is a deep brown gray, mottled slightly from age, and it carries the faint scent of lanolin. You unfold it slowly, letting it fall into place over the bed, its weight smoothing the linen beneath. The head of the bed. There is a small pillow, little more than a sack, filled with softer straw and a few handfuls of dried herbs. You lift it to your face and catch the faint perfume of lavender and rosemary, a scent that soothes even before your head touches it. You set it back carefully, feeling the way it fits neatly into the space between blanket and frame. The older woman steps back, looking over the bed with the quiet satisfaction of someone who has done this thousands of times. She gives the blanket a final smoothing, then nods toward it as if to say, "It's ready." You stand there for a moment, taking in the scene. The bed is simple, but it is warm, inviting in a way that speaks not of luxury, but of rest honestly earned. You can imagine the feeling of lying down, the weight of the blanket pressing gently over you, the faint rustle of straw as you shift, the scents of herbs and wool mingling into the background of sleep. Beyond the shutters, the night has deepened. The wind moves softly through the trees, its sound low and steady. The village is silent now, each household folded into its own small world of firelight and sleep. Inside, the only sounds are the quiet breath of the fire and the occasional soft creak of the cottage's timbers settling into the cool air. You think of the beds you've known in your own life, the way you slip into them without thought, the way comfort comes without effort. Here, comfort is something shaped by hand each night, something that asks you to notice it, to be part of making it. That knowledge makes it feel richer, deeper. The older woman moves to her own bed on the other side of the room, pulling back her blanket with the same measured care. You both work in silence now, not because words are unwelcome, but because they are unnecessary. The day has been spoken for. The night is for rest. You slip the blanket back on your side and sit at the edge of the bed. The frame creaks softly under your weight, and the straw shifts, releasing a faint, fresh scent. You press your palm into the surface and feel its give, not the sinking softness of a mattress from your own time, but a firmer, grounded support. For a long moment, you just sit there, feeling the fire's warmth on your back, the coolness of the pillow under your hand, and the calm weight of the night around you. Then you lie back slowly, letting the blanket fall into place over you, the pillow cradling your head with its faint herbal perfume. In the dim glow from the hearth, the beams above you seem to fade into shadow. Your breathing slows, matching the quiet pulse of the room. The day has been put away, each task done, each object in its place. The bed holds you, and the night takes you gently into its keeping. The fire has burned down to a quiet bed of embers, blowing in the hearth like the last heartbeat of the day. They shift and settle softly, sending up an occasional spark that fades before it reaches the chimney. The light they give is low and steady, casting a warm, flickering glow that fills the room without chasing away the shadows. You are lying beneath the wool blanket, the weight of it pressing gently over you. It is not heavy in the way that burdens are heavy. Instead, it is the kind of weight that grounds you, keeping you in place, keeping you safe. Beneath you, the straw mattress whispers faintly when you shift, each sound a reminder of the care taken earlier to smooth and arrange it. The pillow cradles your head, its faint scent of lavender and rosemary rising with your breath. You turn your face slightly toward the hearth, catching the subtle warmth drifting from it, a reminder that the night will be kind to you here. Across the room, the older woman has already settled into her own bed. Her breathing is slow and steady, the sound blending into the quiet so completely that it feels like part of the room itself. In the corner, a wooden stool holds a small clay cup of water, set within easy reach, and beside it the faint outline of the sewing box you used earlier in the day. Even in the dim light, you can see the familiar shapes of the cottage, the table, the spinning wheel, the shelves with their jars and bundles, each one at rest, each one waiting for tomorrow. You close your eyes for a moment, and behind them, the day replays in fragments, the cool weight of the wooden bucket as you lifted water from the well, the hum of the market, where voices rose and fell like the tide, the smooth glide of wool through your fingers as it twisted into yarn, the simple sweetness of bread dipped into stew, the glow of the village under the first stars. These memories do not come in a rush, they arrive slowly, like drifting leaves, settling where they will. The air inside the cottage is warmer than the night outside, but not stifling. You can feel the faint coolness where your face meets the pillow, the way the rest of your body is wrapped in a pocket of heat beneath the blanket. The fire's glow reaches your closed eyelids, turning the darkness there into a deep, quiet red. You think of the way endings come in your own time, often abrupt, lights switched off, the day sealed shut like a book slammed closed. Here, the day ends as it began, slowly, gently, without hurry. There is no jarring break between wakefulness and sleep. There is only the soft dimming of one and the gradual rising of the other. Outside, the village is still. The only sounds are faint and far the low sigh of wind against the shutters, the almost inaudible rustle of leaves in the hedgerow, the occasional creak of a timber as it shifts in the cool night air. These are not noises to keep you awake, they are part of the lullaby the place sings without knowing it. You shift once more, drawing the blanket higher, tucking it beneath your chin. The pillow gives easily beneath your head, the dried herbs inside releasing a little more of their calming scent. Your breathing begins to match the rhythm of the older woman's, slow, measured, with a slight pause before each exhale. In the hearth, one ember flares briefly, then settles back, its glow dimming a little more. You watch it for a few moments, your gaze soft, unfocused. It reminds you of a lighthouse scene from far away, steady but fading, guiding you toward a harbor you are already inside. The day has no more to give you, and you have no more to give it. Everything that needed doing has been done. Everything that could wait has been left, without guilt, for tomorrow. In this place, in this bed, in this quiet, there is nothing pulling at you from beyond the walls. Your eyelids grow heavier. The line between thought and dream blurs, the images in your mind loosening from their edges. The weight of the blanket, the scent of herbs, the whisper of straw beneath you, all of it folds around you like the last words of a gentle story. The fire gives one last, soft crackle. The room breathes with you. And the night, deep, whole, and still gathers you in. The cottage has fallen into a deeper quiet now, the kind that feels as though even the air has slowed its movement. The last embers in the hearth glow faintly, their light no longer reaching the corners of the room. What remains is a gentle warmth, enough to keep the chill from the air, but not enough to stir you from your place beneath the blanket. You lie still, your body heavy with rest, the weight of the day slipping away with each breath. The scent of lavender and rosemary from the pillow rises softly, mingling with the faint smokiness left behind by the fire. Outside, the wind moves through the trees in slow, hushed sweeps, like the sound of a long sigh. Somewhere beyond the cottage walls, the village sleeps. The animals in their pens are quiet, their breathing as steady as your own. The houses, each with its shuttered windows and banked hearth, are tucked under the same dark sky, all part of the same slow rhythm that has carried this place through countless nights before this one. Your mind drifts back over the day, not in a rush, but in gentle fragments, the first touch of cool air in the morning, the circle of firelight as breakfast was shared, the calm steps to the well, the smell of fresh bread in the market, the smooth pull of the spinning wheel, the voices of neighbors carried on the afternoon air, the taste of warm stew as evening settled in. Each memory feels softened at the edges, like stones worn smooth by water. In your own time, days often slip past without notice, blurred by the constant press of what's next. Here, each moment had its place, each task its own space to breathe. And now, in the deep of night, that same care has been given to the closing of the day, a deliberate folding away of everything, so that nothing sharp remains to catch against your thoughts as you rest. The older woman across the room breathes slowly in her sleep. The sound is steady, like a quiet tide rolling in and out. You find your own breath matching hers without trying, your chest rising and falling in the same slow cadence. Your hands are warm beneath the blanket, your feet cocooned in the pocket of heat you've made for yourself. A soft creak from the rafters draws your gaze upward for a moment, though your eyes are already heavy. The beams above are lost in shadow, but you know their shape now, the way they arch over the room like protective arms. The walls feel closer at night, not in confinement, but in shelter. Outside, the sky is deep and endless. You imagine the stars, still scattered across it, shining over the village, the fields, the woods beyond. Some are fixed, some wandering, but all of them part of the same quiet order that this day belonged to. The thought is steadying the same stars will be there when you wake, just as they were there for all the mornings that came before. The pillow shifts slightly under your head as you exhale. Your eyelids flutter shut, not with force, but as though they have decided on their own that there is nothing more to see tonight. In the soft dark behind them, the shapes of the day fade entirely, replaced by the slow drift of images without edges or weight. The blanket holds you, the mattress beneath you hums faintly with the scent of straw, and the cool air on your face keeps the rest of you warm. The last sound you register is the quiet murmur of the embers, as if the fire itself is whispering you towards sleep. And so, here at the close of the day, in the still heart of the village, with the weight of the blanket like a gentle hand upon you, the night carries you deeper past thought, past memory, into the slow, boundless peace of dreaming. Sleep well. Let the stars keep their watch above you. Let the fire's warmth linger in your bones. When the morning comes, may you wake to another day, gentle and whole, in this quiet place where time moves with you, not against you. Good night.